Hello everybody, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. In our last mission we took Sydney, whatever the heck his name was, to the moon. Just did a little flyby mission and collected a good 45,000 credits from that. Now we're going to do the second half of the mission and take the other guy to Minmus. So let's go ahead and load up a rocket. We can essentially just use the same rocket. What did we name that thing? The Minmus Ferry Mark 1? Because I know that it'll go to both Moon and Minmus with tons of fuel to spare. But instead of having Jeb, who's the other guy? Let's just double check. Signer. So let's get old Signer Kerman into the seat. He wants to go for a flyby to Minmus, and he wants to orbit Kerbin. We can definitely do both of those things with this ship. She was a good ship. Let's see, let me think if there's anything I could do to improve it. I think it was basically fine. It was a little bit rickety in the beginning with the launch, but once we got it under control, everything went, pretty well after that. We did lose the batteries and a couple solar panels, but that's to be expected upon a re-entry. The most important thing was that the parachute held and that the passenger survived with the heat shield intact. So, let's go to Minmus. Alright, old Signer's turn now. So let's go ahead and get this thing teed up and charged up, and let's get ready to rumble. Signer and Simpson. Their names are so familiar that sometimes I think I messed up, but no, I think we're okay. We're just fine. Signer's not too happy. He's a little upset right now. Don't really blame him when you think about it. He's in this thing by himself, tiny little window, and only a probe is driving it. He has no idea if this probe will glitch out or malfunction, and he has no way to communicate with mission control because technically there's no communitron on this thing. So old Signer is just by himself in radio silence, just enjoying the view and assuming that everything is still on course. I'm just going to line this up with the 90. This thing moving forward. There we go. Right on the 90 mark. Yeah, so our first mission to the moon was relatively successful. I think it's funny and ironic that the first Kerbals to visit the moon in my universe were tourists. I mean, never mind trained astronauts or scientists or engineers. The first people to visit the moon and at least do a flyby were tourists. Shows what kind of Kerbal community we are. We're more concerned about the money than the science, apparently. But in order to get great science, you must have great money first, right? It needs to be funded. Speaking of funding, we should probably mess around with the administration building just to get ourselves a little more money. Because really, I mean, that's the only issues I've been having so far with this new career mode is having enough money. Because we are playing on moderate, so the funding returns to us are not as great as if it was on normal. Also, we have to upgrade the buildings, and we have to purchase all new parts that we research. So those are like 3 new things that I was never used to before. So that's why it's taken a little longer to do each item. I remember in version 0.24, my career mode, by this time, I think we were already like going to Duna. But it's just taken a little longer, like I said, because everything costs a little bit more. That cost. We are getting some nice height. So I'm just going to basically turn this thing right over the horizon. We'll give Signer a nice view of the ground. Because I'm a nice guy like that. There you go, man. That's what you came for, right? Beautiful. Looks like we are out of thrust, out of fuel. We'll kick that thing out, push this thing up, and we'll just get this thing right to 100, just like the other one. Now, Minmus is a little bit trickier to get to. It requires one extra step, but I will agree with Scott Manley that, we gotta cut the engine off, that it is actually easier to get to Minmus than it is to get to the moon. Because, well, basically, Minmus is smaller, less gravity, And so if you're planning on landing there, it actually costs a little less fuel than if you were going to the moon. Believe it or not. So let's go ahead and warp up to this maneuver, and that can't be right. 35 minutes? No. Warp to next maneuver. Yeah. Oh well, we'll just do it the old-fashioned way. There we go. We'll point ourselves right at that node and start a burning. This is just our orbital injection burn here. Getting ourselves in orbit around this beautiful planet of ours. So very soon we'll lit the orbit around Kerbin. I keep calling it Kerbin. Orbit around Kerbin stipulation. And there we go. He's happy. Look at how happy he is, because one of our itineraries is already complete. We've orbited the Kerbin. Cool. We'll just get this thing fully circularized. Okay. Next item, we want to go to Minmus. It's a little further out, but also it's tilted off the ecliptic. As you can see, it's got a little tilt. So what we have to do is set it as the target, and we're precisely on the descending node. We're about to be there. We're going to pull this thing up until it zeroes out. I'm going to have to finagle around with it. NAN means it's perfect. Estimated burn 17 seconds. So we're going to burn very, very soon. In fact, basically right about here. It's going to cost an extra 200. But this ship has so much delta V that I'm not worried whatsoever. So as you can see, we are adjusting our orbit now. The little blue orbit's going to come up to meet that green one. So that looks pretty good. You can check by just lining it up, but you could also check the numbers. Descending node, negative 0.1, that's fine. That's, for all intents and purposes, that's right on the money. So next we want to make a burn so we can hit Minmus. So let's come out over here. You want to think of this as a clock. If Minmus is the 3 o'clock, you want to basically get it so that you're going to meet up with Minmus. It's sort of... not this angle, because what this is saying is we're going to miss it, we're going to be too far ahead of it, so we have to move back towards the other way, basically back towards right where we are. So let's see if we can finagle this around a little bit. And again, you know, we can go for like a free return trajectory. Minmus periapsis is 500,000. Let's see, what happens if we go back the other way? It becomes 100,000. 200,000. There, let's keep that. Minmus periapsis is 269,000. That's technically a flyby, and then we'll just have to do just a tiny little burst to bring this in to where we need to be. So let's go ahead. I just got to be careful with these solar panels since they're not all over the place. We got to just keep it pointing at the sun. But let's go. Well, of course, now that gets ruined, we have to make our burn, but it'll be okay. It's going to take a minute, so we're going to want to burn this thing at about 30 seconds. So even though Minmus is farther away, it doesn't take that much more delta V to get out there. There we go. So there's us ballooning out this orbit using dat fuel. Minmus is quite far. It's basically at the edge, almost at the edge of the sphere of influence of Kerbin. Maybe a little further, maybe right about here is where it would break the orbit and you would go interplanetary, but Minmus is kind of on the fringe. Alright, so we'll just go nice and slow. There we are. So what do we have? Minmus Ferry is 250 whatever. Oop, that's a little too far. Let's back up a little bit. I want it to be a little closer than that. Now this is definitely a free return trajectory right here. Well, no, not quite. If this was a little closer, that would be it. But let's see. Ooh, that's real close to Minmus. That's super close. It's basically scraping it. Yeah, you know, why not? Let's get nice and close. You want to fly by Minmus? You got it, buddy. That'll do it. All right. So that's gonna be us. I'm just gonna keep this thing tilted like this so that it's constantly pointing at the sun. Once we get to the other side, we'll start charging up again. And any minute now. There it is. Very good. So we should be basically okay the whole trip out. Just do a little quick save in case something weird happens. In other words, piloting error. In case the probe has any short circuits or crashes, right? Definitely wouldn't be my fault or Signer's fault. It's definitely the probe's fault. So we're really zooming out there now, and you can see Minmus is approaching us. Now it looks like we're gonna be early, but you got to remember as we get towards the apoapsis, we're gonna slow down, and Minmus is just gonna keep careening towards us at the same speed. So we should see it somewhere. There's the moon. Ah, there's Minmus, right there. Alright. Minmus getting closer. Let's just get it right to where the sphere of influence changes. Here it comes. Looks like we're going to hit it, but I don't think we will. Maybe not that slow. Here we go. And there we have it. So let's see, what's it going to do? Yeah, it's going to be very close. 44,000. Not bad. Now since we are past the apoapsis, we're not going to be able to burn quite as efficiently, but let's see. It'll still work. We'll pull in a little bit this way and a little bit that way. Ooh. Oh, it's so... Oh man, so if we leave it like this, we'll get a moon flyby again, but we don't want that. We want this to be in here like this. Ooh, so technically, there we go. We flew by Minmus, even though we didn't even fly by it yet, but we're about to. Let's get a little bit closer here. Look at how far away everything is. Beautiful. In fact, that's a nice screenshot right there. Look at that. Minmus, Kerbal, Mun. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's get a little bit closer in here. So our periapsis height is 44,000. There she is. Just a tiny little ball of ice or something. Minmus' sphere of influence is very small. So we're in about 2 hours we'll be past it. We'll be over here. Basically right at our maneuver. Right at the maneuver. And that's it. So, all we gotta do is line this thing up with our maneuver node. And that's going to bring us home once we make that burn in about 17 minutes. fire it up. Make this tiny little connection or correction, and there we go. So let's just check. What's our periapsis? 65. We want to bring that right into about 28, just like the moon. 27's fine. That'll do us. Alright. All we gotta do is get him back safely and we win. We'll win the contract. Again, I'm just gonna make sure that we are pointing right at the sun. Don't want this thing to run out of power before we get there. There we go. That'll do it. So let's get this thing warped in. We're gonna warp it to right about here, just to be safe. How cool is that? How cool is that? Oh man. We almost hit that moon. That's brilliant. Yes, if we had adjusted that a little bit more, we would have actually had another moon encounter. But that would really have done us no good. Except just to be kind of neat. Wouldn't that be neat? Anyway, let's get this thing warped in here. We're still charged up with our power. This time we may actually land near Kerbin, actually, because here's the desert. And near Kerbin, near the KSC. Here's the KSC right about here, actually. Well, we might land just offshore of it. That would be kind of cool. Alright, so let's see. Let's get this thing pointed over here like this. And we'll just go zooming in. There's the desert. Here's our home continent right here. Wow. That's freaky. We are falling right into that continent. You ready, Signer? Ready for the ride of your life, man? I think we're pretty much good to go. We can get rid of this stage. Make sure this is pointed precisely at the retrograde. I do believe we are passing over... Yeah, we're basically passing over the Space Center right now. It's a little further down there. In fact, it's right there. That's our Space Center right there. So we're definitely going to be a bit offshore of it. But not too bad. Oh, how neat is that? Oh, wow. That is a cool view right there. That's a cool screenshot. That one too. Beautiful. Alright, enough gawking. Let's just make sure everything goes over well. Right there. You can see the temperature rising on these solar panels. Probably going to explode again. Still an orbital view here. Oh, now we're in surface view. Huh. I was wrong. We are going to land in the dark side. Looks like we're about to lose one of these things. This panel's gonna go first. I wonder if we could like roll around. I wonder if that would save it. Doubt it. Oh! Ouch. Felt that one. Batteries seem to be holding. For some reason, this side of the spacecraft is getting a lot of heat. Not that one. And we are... G-force looks like it might be dropping. Ever so slightly. Yep. We may not lose anything else. Because we are slowing down now. At a reasonable rate. I don't really care about the batteries or the solar panels. As long as this parachute stays intact, we're fine. Wonder what kind of terrain. We're definitely going to land on the land. Wonder what kind of terrain we're gonna be over. It's a good question. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. Kind of right between day and night. Look at that. How cool. How cool is that? Alright. Again, we got a nice glowing solar panel. And batteries glowing too. That can't be good for them. Probably won't work as well. Alright, but anyways, let's... Well, we're right on the coast there. Let's deploy the parachute. And again, I'm just going to click this thing if we can stop moving. There we go. To about 800's fine. That's fine. So let's get down. Let's get low, get low. Suddenly all the cities disappear. They've despawned. They're gone. They blink out of existence. Oh, look at that. They're glowing. Got a nice glowing solar panel. Well, it was glowing. It's gone now. Falling at a nice clip here. Parachute should open up very quickly. Very soon, at least. He's a little worried. And we're slow. We're slowed. What do you think, Signer? He's happy. He's a little excited. You have no idea what these dials mean, huh? But they look cool, don't they? Let's just get him down. We'll watch our contract complete once we get down to the ground here. There we go. Alright. Did it. Let's recover it. There we go. We got 13 science from a flyby of Minmus. Again, the very first the very first Kerbals to go to the moon in Minmus were tourists. Amazing. And look, he gained 5 XP. He advanced to level 1. Good job, Signer. You're level 1 tourist now. Alright. We'll close that. Let's take a look at what we get. Ferry 2 tourists. The touristic success. They had nothing but great things to say about the trip and brought back plenty of photos. So we got a nice 26 rep for that. Excellent. And a nice 54,000 Kerbal credits, which brings us up to 290. So that's great. Let's see. In the next episode, we can do some other things. In fact, maybe what we'll do is we might try to get some crews out to the moon or Minmus. Oh, look at this. We have a rescue mission. And you guys know me. I love my rescue mission, and people seem to love to watch those ones. So that might be what we do next. We might rescue Rickbus Kerman out of orbit. He's stuck. We gotta get him out of there. So look forward to that in the next episode of Kerbal Space Program. Thanks for watching, guys. See you then.